Good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you may be around the world, and welcome to Splendid Isolation number 249. And I'm sorry we're a couple of minutes late, that's entirely my fault. As always, give people time to join the stream. I'm going to start us off with a bit of a tune.
Take up the white man's burden, send forth the best ye breed. Go bind your sons to exile, to serve your captives' need. To wait in heavy harness on flooded folk and wild. Your new God's sullen peoples have devil and have child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden, the savage wars of peace. Fill full the mouth of famine and bid the sickness cease. And when your goal is nearest, the end for others sought, what's love and heed and folly, bring all your hopes to naught. Take up the white man's burden, no tawdry rule of kings, but toil of serf and sweeper, the tale of common things. The ports ye shall not enter, the roads ye shall not tread. Go make them with your living and mark them with your dead. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of those ye humor are slowly towards the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, a loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, ye dare not stoop to less, nor call too loud on freedom to cloak your weariness. By all ye cry or whisper, by all ye leave or do, the silent, sullen people shall weigh your gods and you. Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days, the lightly proffered laurel, the easy ungrudged praise. Come down to search your manhood through all of thankless years. No age would give what wisdom the judgment of your peers. Take off the white man's burden through all of thankless years.
And that was, of course, the excellent Chris Gard. If you like good music from somebody from our side of the political divide, go and check out Chris. He's a very talented, real musician. And yeah, good bloke. Go and check him out on YouTube, and you can also find him on X, on Twitter, where we are also currently live. So there you go. Good evening to my guests, Mitch and Am, and I don't know if we'll get other people. I have invited us with other people. Whether they show up or not, it's entirely down to them. I can't twist their arms, unfortunately, given I can't pay them for this. So, yeah. How are you going this evening, Mitch and Armin?
Yeah, good.
Same old.
Good. Do you want me to put that up, Mitch? That thing you've just put up?
Yeah, I think that'll be my first. So,
all right, then.
yeah.
We're going to move on to our guest's first topics for this evening, and this is Mitch's because he's the guy on the clockwise side of my clock. So there we go.
Yeah. So Keir Starmer asked for technocrats. Essentially, that I don't think I got because it's a very long. It's quite a long article by Aris Rousinos, basically Greek fellow who lives in Northern Ireland, I believe. Basically, the synopsis of it is basically saying our governing class, elite, whatever word you want to use, are basically in the same position as like the Soviet Union back in the early 90s. But it looks like the end is near. Like it looks like it's to be an end of the tunnel for the people in charge, and at some point, you just get a new guard coming. Now, one might say, well, Farage isn't as radical as he needs to be because I go, yeah, I do fundamentally. Farage wants to more reboot the system rather than outright, do like a Phoenix style restoration of it. But at the end of the day, he's still a massively different guy compared to someone like Keir Starmer, and he would herald a sort of new era, I suppose you could say, because you're looking at Starmer. I mean, he does feel like this is the last Blair-White era, and then after whatever happens next is sort of uncharted territory. Because some people might go, well, you got the sort of quote unquote left-wing populist types, but it's like, well, he's like a Bernie Sanders over in America. Like, he's just a massive flop. Because at the end of the day, someone like Zach Polanski, if it push came to shove, he'd sooner have Keir Starmer in power than someone like Farage or someone further on than Farage. And it just becomes a position where said left-wing populists just get cooked by the mainstream left. So you have like Nancy Pelosi, who will just tell Bernie Sanders pipe down and give way to someone like Biden or Kamala Harris. Over here, I mean, you had Jeremy Corbyn, who was sabotaged by some of his own side. Say some of his own side. I mean, the Blairites didn't like him, but they were within Labour back in like 2017 and 2019. And you also got that wing of politics where they're like crabs in a bucket against one another. You got your party where the left wing, like you have the socialists. You have like the LGBT lot, like Owen Jones and all that crowd. They're having a scrap basically with the Muslims. And it's like a cat fight between them.
Let's hope they implode, Armin. That's what sorry, Mitch. Let's hope they implode. That's what I hope. Look, I detest the so-called conservatives, and I wouldn't vote for them if you paid me. But you know what? The Labour Party is the other main half of the Uni Party, and those asses need to collapse too. It's no good.
Would you vote for them if Rupert Lowe took them over?
What, the Conservatives?
Yeah.
That would be a difficult one, Armin, because I really like Rupert Lowe, and I think he's actually more based than Nigel Farage is. But could he actually control the so-called Conservative Party?
Well, this is kind of the thing with the Farage angle, though, isn't it? Like, you're saying about Farage trying to reboot the system. I mean, do we know if Farage fully understands what it is he's fighting against? Like, it's hard to say.
I would say this, Adam, is that Mitch is probably a little bit more pro-Farage than I am. Although I hope I'm not.
I mean, I'm not anti-Farage. I don't dislike the guy. I think.
No, I don't dislike him, but I just don't think he. I'll vote for him because you've got to basically you've got to get these guys into power at the next election. If you don't, then I don't know where we go from there. But I don't think he's going to go anywhere near far enough. But he might prepare the ground for someone who will. That's my hope, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's like.
Can I just say to SGG167, you brought up an interesting point, and Dissident Knight answered you in the chat, and he's correct. But I can't talk about this right now because I'm not going to totally derail my guest's subject. But we will talk about that later on in the stream if you remind me, please.
What's that?
He's talking about how Australia have kicked out an Afrikaner dude who apparently was too anti-small hats. But you've got to understand, Australia has, like Britain, a left-wing socialist prime minister who's probably also gay, Albanese. And Australia has always been keen on kicking people out of the country. They wouldn't even let Carl Benjamin Sargon in.
Well, I mean, maybe we should bring this up when we actually talk about that, if you want to talk about it. But I think Carl Benjamin's thing was more of an administrative issue on his end than them not letting him in.
All right. Well, I don't want to completely derail Mitch's subject, which is I know not about that.
Yeah.
Later on, if you remind me, SGG167, we will absolutely address this because I totally agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that Australia is kicking people out of the country for that, but it's a totally different subject to what we're talking about at the moment. Sorry, Mitch, please carry on.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have quotes here like, if Keir Starmer didn't exist, then he'd have to be invented because he's so rigid and robotic in how he carries on things. And so, yeah, he's a guy who go, okay, well, we can't cut spending because, we basically have to subsidize the third world, so we must raise taxes. But at some point, I mean, it's like the ONS, for example, this week, it was found that the ONS massively underestimated how many people were leaving. And by those people leaving, we mean as in, our people who, or let's say below the age of 40, leaving for greener pastures because the country's just a massive grift where wealth gets redistributed by punitive taxes pretty much against the likes of us to pay for all the Somalis and whatnot we've got in social housing down in London. And it's, that's going to become a massive problem down the road. I mean, I don't know how long that issue would take to be resolved, but I mean, you're going to have a brain drain over the next few years because personally, you can't really blame people for leaving when, you look at the status quo. What is he doing? Oh, you can't even go on a train anymore these days without the possibility of getting stabbed by the diversity we've imported. You can't have a daughter around here because some areas of the country just practically unsafe for young women. Oh, let's say you're a taxpayer. You're basically subsidising international welfare for everyone from here to Timbuktu. I don't blame people for white flighting out the country. It's just a matter of, you just hope that we don't get brain drained really hard by America because some Americans have been talking about, basically giving asylum to people on our side from this side of the Atlantic. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember. I mean, I've seen it quite a few times as well. Like, especially sort of Gen X or older, sort of getting quite sneery with younger people who are leaving. We even had a little bit of this with someone in my office who left to Australia, and he came back for a short while to see family. But the older people there, there was a couple of them specifically. Most of them were, understood, but there was a couple of them specifically that seemed to assume that he was coming back, to work and to stay. And they described him as coming back with his tail between his legs. And then they were quite shocked when he actually said, "Oh no, I'm just coming back to see friends and family, and to sort this, that, and the other out, and then I'm going back out." And I actually tried to explain to one of these people. I was like, "Right, but this guy, he's quite young. He was like 22," and I was like, "He's known nothing but Blairism and mass immigration. He doesn't even have the glow of 90s culture to bask in like a lot of the older individuals do. The afterglow of it. He doesn't see any of that. He's only ever known Britain as an economic zone, and which is how all of these people see it as. And they seem to proclaim that's a good thing. and yeah, these people were giving him shit for it. And then, but these people that were the same people saying that, oh, you shouldn't just be able to take wealth out of the country, or if someone's trained as a doctor in the NHS, they shouldn't be able to leave to Australia, even though the NHS would sooner hire third world doctors than domestically trained doctors. That we've literally got an unemployment problem in the doctor sector. I mean, how mad is that? It's like they all sat around, and the Gordon Browns and that, they all brainstormed how to turn everything into a deracinated consumerist economy, and now they're all tripping over themselves and crying because everyone sees it as a deracinated consumerist economy and nothing else. And it's a bit of a tragedy. I think the only thing, I think it would be less of a tragedy if the people that did this paid for it, but that's not going to happen. So.
Interesting, Alan. Look, I have a direct interest in this, obviously. Like when I left the British Army in the mid '80s, and the reason I left is my battalion was going to be sent to the British Army of the Rhine, and every soldier who I respected, who'd been in the army a long time, said to me, my infantry battalion was going to be sent to British Army of the Rhine, and every British soldier who I respected said to me, "You don't want to go there, mate, because it's constant bullshit. There's it's fucking around constantly." I was probably lucky in a way, in that when I joined the army, we were almost immediately. Once I became a trained soldier, we were almost immediately sent to Northern Ireland, to Belfast. And then after that, we had another, we were going to get sent overseas, but we didn't. We got sent on an enrollment tour back to Northern Ireland again. Although an enrollment tour, for anyone who doesn't understand, is an emergency tour. It was a tour where if you were a married man, you couldn't take your wife and your children with you or anything like that. And we were actually sent to what we used to call bandit country, which is like South Armagh on the border with Ireland. And that was actually much more fun than Belfast, because it was actually real soldiering in the countryside. And you had to make sure when you did patrols, you didn't ever take the same route twice, because they'd ambush you if you did, from the Southern Irish side of the border with a sniper rifle or something, or a mortar. And so you had to do real soldiering, which was fun. For me anyway, I like soldiering. I didn't like Belfast much. I got really over Belfast by the end of it. So I was going to go over. So I decided, I took a leave because I had quite a lot of money, because I'd been in Northern Ireland quite a long time. And when I was in Northern Ireland, you weren't allowed out of barracks, because they would get a cute little Catholic girl to meet you in a pub and like give you the come on, and then a couple of pyro guys would murder you with a bullet in the back of the head. So we basically weren't allowed out of barracks really at all if we're not on duty and armed. And as a result of doing 2 tours in Northern Ireland, I had a load of savings. I mean, the British Army wasn't well paid by any means, but if you've got nothing to spend your money on, it kind of builds up a bit, And so I took, it was when I left the army, and I left, my platoon lieutenant was most pissed off, because he assured me I'd be a sergeant in, 3 months, which was probably an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. And I just said, look, I don't want to do British Army of the Rhine. I wasn't interested, basically. So anyway, I took a couple of months off. I went home and stayed at my dad's, and I spent every day on the beach reading books and going swimming. And the local chicks used to call me the book boy, because I'd always sit on the beach reading books. One of them I remember was Siegfried Sassoon, Memoirs of an Infantry Officer. But anyway, and it was a lovely summer in England. And I was on the beach on the south coast, and it was kind of nice. I'd get too hot, go for a swim, come out, sunbathe. talk to some local jiggy babes, all that kind of shit. And I just thought, you know what? I was looking at this water, I remember it, and I thought, I could get on a ship out there and sail down to Cape Town or Durban or somewhere, and, you know, like you used to in the days of the Empire. And remember, this is the mid-'80s, so we're talking about a long time back in the last century for all you young dudes who watch this. And I thought, you know what? I think that's what I'm going to do. And I'd been to South Africa anyway. Like, I went there on a leave and liked it. And this was when the white government was still in charge. And so that's how I ended up going to South Africa. And to cut a long story short, I ended up in Australia because I met an Australian girl in South Africa who was the late love of my life. Sadly, she's not around anymore, which kind of fucked up my last 20 years, but, you know, that happens. Like, I've been in Australia 25 years now, for God's sake. You know, someone in the chat was saying, you could get chucked out. Not very easily, I couldn't, because I've got an Australian passport. But I've also got a British passport, and I've got a South African passport. Not entirely sure if that's legal, but I do have all three of them. But anyway. But I was kind of looking at it from a 19th century angle when I did that stuff. It was kind of like I was going to go look around the empire, if you know what I mean. Of course, there was no empire in 1983, but in my head, from reading all the shit that I read when I was younger, there still was. You know, I used to read Alan Quatermain books and you know, all that, all kind of stuff. And yeah, Australia is going down the same route as Britain. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is. Albanese is another socialist guy who's almost certainly gay, who does all sorts of evil, bad things. He does. I don't think Albanese is any better than Starmer. But then I'm no socialist, you know, never will be either. Never have been. Even when I've never, ever voted for the Labour Party, and I never, ever would. I did vote for Maggie Thatcher once, but that was just after she won the Falklands War. And it was the first time I was allowed to vote. And I voted for her because she had the balls to fight the Falklands War, basically, and take it back for Britain. Nothing else, just that. But yeah, I find it interesting what people like Mitch and Atterman, who are much younger than me, I mean, I know Mitch is probably the youngest of us, and I find it interesting what you guys think, because, you know, you see Peter Hitchens, who's always been a doom and gloom merchant, of course, saying, and he's been saying this for years, anyone who can leave Britain should leave Britain. I put a video up on our Discord a week or two ago, which was a quite long video about living in the Falkland Islands. Now, there's about 3,000 Falkland Islanders currently, plus, I don't know, 400 or 500 military dudes down there, like, you know, Navy, Army, and Air Force. And it looked quite nice, I have to say. It really did. If I was a young dude in Britain now, like if I was Outman or Mitch's age, and I could move to the Falklands, I'd probably think about that these days. I really would. It looked pretty nice place to live. Like, basically, Stanley looks like a British seaside town from about 1975. Good, you know, nothing wrong with that. But I would be really interested, and I'm aware that I'm derailing Mitch here a bit, because I know Mitch has got another subject in a minute. But I'd be really interested to what Mitch and Atterman think about this whole idea of, like, should you leave Britain? Particularly, like, if, for example, you have a young family, for example, would you be better staying, or would you be better trying to find better pastures? I just don't know, because I'm an old bastard and I've been back to Britain much more recently, but I haven't lived in Britain full time for a long time. So, you know, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, when I see it, part of me does think, like, oh, you shouldn't run away, but you can't really, you can't. I mean, the people leaving to Australia, I don't really see as them leaving Britain. Almost, they're still sort of within the Anglosphere. But even if you were going somewhere further abroad, even if you were, moving to Thailand or somewhere, I don't know. But you can't just, if your town is going downhill seriously because of demographic change, you can't really just stick your flag in the ground and make some prominent stand. I mean, there are things you can do. You can organize locally with people, and you can create sort of networks that allow your small section of town to weather the storm somewhat. But the truth of the matter is, in those instances, especially when it's a demographic transformation, as soon as those numbers start coming in, people are going to leave. And if you make this impassioned stand, you're just going to be the last guy there, having as Drusilla Cotterill, who wrote the letter to Enoch Powell, did, a dead dog thrown through your living room window and shit smeared through your letterbox, and your life is just going to be hell. And for what? For no real gain. So it's not really, I mean, our political situation isn't one that can be solved by standing your ground or by leaving. You kind of just have to go where you can prosper and be safe. And I mean, this is kind of one of the good parts about being in this particular age, is that you can almost wage a war online. I know people like really look down their nose at the online stuff, but like memeology has had done some real heavy lifting in the culture wars over the last sort of decade or two. But yeah, I don't really have.
Adam, how long have you and I been doing this stuff? I mean, like years now.
Yeah, and it's like I don't particularly. I don't really particularly like the whole Peter Hitchens. Oh, flee with your lives, but also, yeah, sometimes you will just have to leave like that. That's just the way it is, sadly, until we fix the actual political situation that forces this situation upon us.
Mitch, what's your view on this? You're probably the youngest guy here, I think.
Yeah, I'm 24.
What do you? So. Yeah, what do you think about this, man?
I mean, half the time I just think about leaving, because I just look at this country and go, look. I mean, I know Tom Rosal, Survivor Job. He said back on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, he said if Reform don't win the next general election, then he's leaving permanently. And I don't blame him, because, I mean, for example, because
I think he's right about that. I really do think the next general election is that serious. Reform have got to win it. I don't totally trust Reform. I certainly don't trust Zia Youssef at all. But if Reform don't win the next general election, then I'm going to start telling people to leave. I've got to say, I really will.
Yeah, and it's like because Tom said that about because Rachel from Accounts decided, oh yeah, she's going to basically tax people for trying to have a private pension, because it's already bad enough. So they keep telling us we've got an aging population, which is true, but then they decided to compound that problem by going, oh well, we know the state pension is going to be around for anyone basically below the age of 60. So what we're going to do is we're going to screw over people below that age trying to save themselves a private pension in their workplace. And it's just becomes a position where you go, every step of the way, your hamstrings are cut by the government, whatever you do. Like you can't get a good house if you're below the age of 40. It's just not going to happen. Like my generation, for example, will be. I mean, I suppose I got a better start. I mean, my generation, unless things massively change, we won't be getting houses. Unless you're only fans.
Mitch, Evola's Sunglasses makes the very good point that it's very hard to move to a better area in England if you don't have any money. It really is. Unless you have a lot of money or a good job, it's very difficult to move to a nicer area in Britain. I mean, particularly unless you've got like maybe a family property that might get passed on to you. If you don't have that, then how do you get the £750,000 you're going to need to move to a nice area of Britain?
Well, the problem with that is, I know like they were talking about going, oh well, we're going to tax, basically for inheritance tax, we're going to tax based off of values of from like 1990. So they go, oh well, let's say your house cost like I don't know £1 million back in 1990. But knowing them, they'll start playing fidgeting with the numbers a bit. So then, literally everyone who's got a house falls under that bracket. So it doesn't matter, even if you inherit like a small terraced house from your parents, for argument's sake, from like factory labor, inheritance tax will just affect everyone, probably the way the Labour Party is going to do. So I don't really hold much hope for inheritance. You know, I mean, Dan off loads of Caesars on his Brokenomics. He'll save us a lot. He'll say, look, don't depend upon inheriting stuff from the boomers because the government has to nick all that money off you to pay for all the other boomers who are getting a state pension.
One thing I would say, I'll just jump in quickly. I would say is in Yeovil, so not far from me, there was a by-election, or there was a by-election, council by-election. Now it's like 99% white British. It hasn't been affected by the recent Boris wave and everything else that's come from that. It votes overwhelmingly Liberal Democrat or Green. You know, Liberal Democrats first, Green second, that sort of stuff. There's been the suggestion of a migrant, one of the Premier Inns, hotel Premier Inns, of turn that into like a migrant hotel. As a result, the local populace, the local like boomer liberal populace, has turned to people like the Homeland Party, who've made a bit of an inroad there. Now, whatever we think of them, and I think that they've sort of shown really their true colours in recent times, but also reform. And so it's how quickly that type of people have, I mean, because fundamentally, I mean, they are the worst type of people. They'll quite happy see the rest of the country suffer, but it's kind of like liberal NIMBYism. They're happy for all the demographics and crap that goes along with it here, but as long as it doesn't affect them. But when it does affect them, that's when they'll change. So, yeah, I mean, I honestly think, um, the more that I know, as bad as it sounds, the more that we have mass immigration and people and the demographic change, the more that our own group becomes, um, I wouldn't say radicalized, but self-aware to the point where, Liberal Democrats and Greens and stuff will become irrelevant. Because at this point, the cities are maxed out, the towns are becoming maxed out. They're nearly maxed out now. The final retreat are these like well-to-do villages in the rural shires, which have a lot of second home people who fled London and the towns because of the way they voted, and there's nowhere else to go after that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, AI, and thank you for joining us this evening. The point I would just say is that, like, I know you're a guy from the Southwest, but if you're not, you're not going to afford a new place in the Southwest, even if you're trying to buy a tiny little dog box, unless
no.
you have a really good job. And obviously, mass immigration, one of the things it does, it not only forces up house prices, both buying and renting, but it also lowers wages. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I've seen that on the local level. There's been two new housing estates, and they've all been one of them, not too far from me on along the motorway, has been completely populated with people from um, Bangladesh or Pakistan or India.
yeah, and it's like I'm thinking about the wages.
Mitch, it's like if I was like a completely green Sorry, I shouldn't say green, because green, in my understanding, means new. But obviously, these days, to most people, green means the insane net zero idiots. But if I was really ignorant, I would say to someone like you, Mitch, why don't you move to, I don't know, the Lake District, for example? Has anyone looked at house prices in the Lake District lately?
You'd have to go to like Carlisle or something.
Yeah.
But there's very little in terms of like employment there.
And this also comes back. I don't know
So
if you
then
guys.
how do you pay for your house, Armin, if you can't get a job? Because
Oh, you could afford a house in Carlisle.
Yeah.
but
it's pretty.
But you can't get a job there.
Yeah,
mate.
you need
That's
an income
going to
once
be
you're
the
there,
issue,
yeah.
isn't it? I've been to Carlisle, by the way. I've been to Carlisle.
Good
And
little
when I
border.
went there, it wasn't very diverse, you know.
It's you can tell. Look, you can tell a lot about a town by whether they have Betfreds or William Hills. Carlisle is definitely a Betfred town. I love the place, but it is a Betfred town.
Okay, fair enough. Someone is also saying Newcastle has good house prices. Well, you could talk to my mate Morgoth,
Yes.
and I'm not sure he'd agree about the good
Right.
bits.
But the thing is, Newcastle is getting enormous amounts of white flight from like London. It's getting like these little like what do they call them? Like digital nomads all moving up there.
Yeah.
I saw like a thing in Newcastle. When last time I went up there, it was like about a year ago. It was what was it? It was like the local Colombian community, and it's like, why the fuck are like some savages from the Amazon hanging out in Newcastle? Well, how like if it was like some former part of the British Empire, I mean, at least I could sort of understand why they might come to UK. But like, why the fuck is Colombia? Like, what are they doing? Just like growing fucking cocaine or something?
Need more drugs. Need more drugs, man.
Drugs. I mean,
they're competing with Albanians now, aren't they?
Yeah, probably. One thing this conversation does remind me, I don't know if you saw this. This was on that god awful trigonometry channel, with Constant Kissing and the gormless idiot that he sits next to him. And it was Ben Shapiro.
Hi, does he remind you of a old time lefty history teacher? Because he sure does me. He is gormless, but he's like to me, he's like the real Dimbo primary school history teacher type lefty, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he just appears just gormless, like there's nothing there, and there's nothing ever been there, and then nothing ever will be there. He just has this totally blank expression. It's incredible. I'm absolutely fascinated by it. But Ben Shapiro was on that show, and Ben Shapiro was talking about America, particularly like what we just talked about, like house prices and living prices. I know Woodpit. He said he was living in California, so he's an American, I guess, as well. And Ben Shapiro said, like, if you can't afford to live in a place, then you don't have a right to live there. And I'm just thinking, okay, hold on a sec. What? Hold on a sec. Coming from Mr. Zionist, we must protect the chosen people on their chosen land.
William Grenville, am I not right in saying that Konstantin Kishin, whose father was an oligarch in Russia, who escaped just ahead of Putin's Russian police?
Yes.
Am I not right in saying that Konstantin Kishin and Ben Shapiro share a religion? I'm pretty sure they do.
I would just say one small correction. It was under Yeltsin, which if you're getting arrested for corruption in Yeltsin's time in Russia, imagine how bad you have to be. Like, imagine how bad Konstantin's father, Vadim, has to actually be.
True.
100, yeah.
Yeah, but it like the fact is, and this is something that I put a tweet out last night, where I said, listen, we can talk about when people say like, okay, what's like the woke thing on the right, and I said free market, the free market obsession, the free market obsession, because it leads to people saying, well, people in capital can move about because the justification for mass immigration. I mean, you have the left wing one of open borders, everyone's the same, universal bollocks and all that. But the right wing version that you hear from a lot of the Thatcherite types and the Tories is just as bad. And there was a few people. There's one American chap who said I was not based apparently. So I don't, good for him. He can enjoy his a bajillion of Mexicans and Colombians through the southern border, I guess. But I said like this is a problem, and this is something that both sides. So when the leftist criticizes, you know, the breakdown of communities and manufacturing and everything. I mean, they're right in that regard. They're right to identify that problem. But what Ben Shapiro, like his perspective, is actually as destructive because you have the left who deconstruct the family unit on a psychological level, but he wants to deconstruct, and his followers and people want to deconstruct the actual material world of their societies. They want to deconstruct it. And it's like, why shouldn't if someone's born in New York or someone's born in California, why shouldn't they live there? That is their homeland. And to argue that, well, America has always been like this sort of nomadic state. I mean, probably only true for like some tribe in the Midwest, not for the white American settlers. Those are people who were settlers. They settled there, and some of them have their roots there going back to the 17th century. I think like a quarter of America has like traces their ancestry back to the Jamestown and Plymouth and all that sort of stuff. There's strong connections there.
Yeah, I think it was Robert Carlyle who wrote that 200 years ago about like how you have like in the Victorian era where loads of people have to move about, and that just like this nomadism trait that just ended up deracinating people from because, for example, on my dad's side, I can trace part of my ancestry to Shropshire, and they had to move to Wolverhampton to look for work because there just wasn't enough work in Shropshire, which was main agriculture at the time, and and it's and it's like, oh no, I saw some people on like Twitter, the Tory boy types going, oh well, internal migration is a good idea. It's like, well, the thing is like how hollow the economy is outside of London, and even in London, it's getting pretty bad because of the way the Labour Party handling it all. But
what economy, Mitch? What economy does Britain have anymore? We build a few ships, mainly for the Royal Navy, very, very, very slowly, mostly in Scotland, and we take 3 times longer than we should to build any of them. And what other fucking industry is there in Britain today? Almost nothing.
At least in Thomas Carlyle's Britain, at least you had the Clyde in Scotland, which was producing most of the shipping. You had factories.
Actually, AI, William Grenville, that's not totally true. Do you know the Thames Ironworks company, which was a shipbuilding company on the River Thames in the middle of London, they built a dreadnought in the early 20th century.
Yeah.
There was shipbuilding all over Britain, even into the early 20th century, all over the place. If the water was deep enough to build a battleship, they used to build one, or a merchant ship, of course.
Yeah, I mean that's my point. I mean, it was Thomas Carlyle. His problem was that you had masses of people leaving the countryside, and the emergence of cities as like these very large industrial centres. But we don't even have that now. So when you have like these Tory boys and people on the right talking about, I mean, for them it's not even internal immigration; it's external. It's like, well, what are you creating here? And they have the gall to talk about, and in the same breath, they'll talk about cultural cohesion, and they'll talk about like the Islamo-communism or some crap like that. And it's like, okay, but then you're still cool with having those very same people, like literally 5 minutes ago, importing them here because of free market, and you don't have a right to stay in this place.
it's not just I know some people on our side they were saying basically like that sort of like I know apparently young men have been doing an exodus from the GOP as of late, and it's because of guys like Ben Shapiro saying stuff like that, where they go, "Oh, you don't have a right to a livelihood."
Let's Mitch. Let's not get too distracted by America. I have many American friends, but their issues, although they are similar to ours, are not exactly the same.
I would say it is an issue that can affect over here as well, because like often you'll get some people go, oh well, if you can't live, if you can't because it's like I don't know, you had, for example, the BNP back in Barking and Dagenham, they were winning, and then the place just got swamped, so people just had to move, and you get this whole thing about and people just move. But
All
some
right,
point,
I'll give you another example, Mitch. Like back in the 70s and 80s, the Midlands, which is kind of your part of the world, used to be the center of the British car industry, right? And even in the 80s, you had British Leyland, you had Vauxhall, and you had Ford, and they were all making British cars basically with British workers, and all of them have now pretty much been destroyed. And
Don't
the
forget
British
the
car
Reliant
industry, yeah, the Reliant Robin, absolutely. But also the Rolls Royce and Jaguar, and absolutely all of that stuff, MG, you name it. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there used to be a British car industry, and it was quite big actually back in the day. And you can argue about whether the unions destroyed it or whoever did. And we've had Mercy on this show. That's his big subject. But he's working tonight because, surprisingly enough, most of the people on this stream work. But the thing is this. It's like, okay, so is there a similarity between the British Midlands and, say, Detroit in America? Detroit in America is now a wasteland, basically, with loads of empty blocks, and like people kill each other constantly, black gangs and all the rest of it. Is that a similarity? I don't know, maybe partly, but I know that any serious country needs to actually make things. It really does. It needs to actually create things. Britain used to be known as the workshop of the world. Britain makes nothing anymore. I mean, Mitch and others have talked about the economy in London and the Southeast, but that's a service economy. It doesn't make fuck all for the most part.
Yeah, so I mean, the economy is just nothing. I mean, you've got another problem you've got as well is that you got I suppose DEI, but you get the HR department types who are in charge of hiring, and yeah, but basically it's a matter of because I've seen loads of people arguing on Twitter about how bad things really are. For basically, if you're a white straight male below the age of 40, you're so shafted by the system we've got that you got nothing to lose, and you get a lot of these boomers. I've seen it more of American boomers rather than British boomers, so I can only talk about American boomers here. But I was just see these American boomers who are just like they've just got their heads in the sand about it. They're just going, "Oh well, you should be content with working as a manager in a fast food outlet or something rather than working as an engineer or working in the IT sector or whatever." And it's no wonder why there's an exodus of young men away from the GOP as of late, because
I
yeah.
I was going to say in the Tory party, there was last time I attended like a regional event, regional gathering. All like you had like they had like the election, like internal election of party treasurers and local chairmen, all that sort of stuff. And what you had is you had this, you know, boomers, but also, a few like of the ones that were born like during the war, during the 40s, and stuff. You had that sort of generation who were, white English, and then you would have foreign people like of my age and maybe a bit younger, And one thing that, and I remember having this conversation, I just said, like, you know, there's not a single, I mean, apart from myself, but there's not a single young white English, like, local. I'm not just, when I say white, I mean, like, local. I mean, because, like, demographically, I mean, you know, where I live, it's not like bad compared to like London or something like that. It's not extreme. It's not like we're in, you know, Tower Hamlets or anything. So it's not even that extreme. And I just said, "Well, where is it?" And they just said, well, um, a lot of them, don't don't seem to be are interested to come to get involved, and so that's why they don't get here. And I just said, well, there's a lot of them that are involved, but why aren't they being given these positions? Why are you giving it to like this collective, as it was at the time, of Indian and also Portuguese? There was a lot of Portuguese people who sort of moved in areas, and they're all like families. And the thing that was, they're all like these family units that joined the party. They were interconnected with each other because of that family, like cousins and stuff. And obviously they had their own like community based interest. Because a lot of the time they just talk about like their own, like, blending English and Portuguese culture and everything. And I don't have anything against the Portuguese in Portugal. But the problem that I said, I got into this back and forth. I said, they said, well, why does it matter? And I said, well, because if you're just going to hand it to Portuguese, we're just going to have like Portuguese stuff, interests, and going forward. And the same with the Indian. And these people will be alienated, and you're not giving them a look in.
William Granville, I've got to disagree with you just a tiny bit, all right? In that I think having some Portuguese people in your area is nowhere near as bad as having Indian people in your area. But then I'm probably a racist, so I mean that's probably what that is.
Well, I don't have them a problem, but when they are all given, my point, Andrew, was when they were given all the top positions in the party structure, I was like, this isn't right, because they make up, I mean, a fraction of the local community, they make up, probably about, a couple percentage, probably even less than that. There's such a minority, but the fact that they have such a, that they have been, it's like they've been, the keys of the kingdom have been handed to them, who've been here 5 minutes. I
William
thought,
Granville, can I ask you, is this not one of the ways that we on the right get so lost in the details that we miss the bigger picture? Like,
what?
I do get, all right, that Portuguese people are not British. I totally get that. But they are
Yeah,
European, all right? They are European. And my issue with Britain is not that a few Europeans get some sort of influence in Britain, because a few Europeans often have. But it's people from totally alien societies from Africa and Asia getting influence, that, and West Indies, I might add, which wouldn't even exist without Britain, David Lammy. But it's to me, this is how we sometimes lose ourselves on the right, is that we give every overseas group an equal thing, whereas I don't, to be honest with you. Like, I've got a Spanish great grandmother, and you know what? She didn't ruin my family. It's like, no.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, it's better than, a Bob Marley, and sure, it could have been worse. It could be like a family of Afghans or Pakistanis or something like that. It could, yes, it could have been worse. But at the same time, my point still stood, because I wasn't angry at the Portuguese people because they were there. I mean, of course, yeah, they're going to get positions or something. They're going to get it. That's not, that wasn't my problem. My problem was that the people who were, you know, I I saw, is they did not see that, or they didn't view it as, okay, you got this group of Portuguese people who you're giving the local political structure of the party that they purported to care about and want to be part of, to them. And because each people from their own cultures and their own groups have very particular outlook, so including the Portuguese, than say to English people. There are differences. There's similarities, but there are definitely differences. Then that would change, and it would alienate, and it did alienate a lot of people, because a lot of the local members who were present were kind of like, why are you just giving it all? Why are you just giving it to people who've just arrived here like 5 minutes ago?
Okay, William Granville, I still don't think we're totally communicating here. Look,
I understand
Portugal
this
is
issue.
Britain's oldest ally, right? Goes back way into the late Middle Ages, pretty much, that Portugal was Britain's ally. Also, I knew some really good Portuguese guys in South Africa who had been fighting the communists, like, you know, whether it be the ANC or SWAPO or whoever, from the time they started attacking Mozambique and Angola when they were Portuguese colonies. They carried on fighting in Rhodesia against these same communist Africans.
Yeah, that's great and all, but we're still talking about a rival
hang,
group's power being projected into our sphere.
hang on 1 second, just let me finish. And this guy was also still fighting for South Africa in Southwest Africa against SWAPO. So yeah, I get what you're saying. I do. I get what William Grenfell was saying, and I get what you're saying, but you know what? Portugal is not particular, and of course, Portugal were also great allies when Wellington and the British Army totally defeated every French marshal sent against them in the Peninsular War during the Napoleonic Wars. There is an enormous difference between Portugal and everywhere in the third world. That's all I'm trying to say.
Would Israeli control over the United States be any better if they were actually a genuinely good ally? Like, no, it would still be bad. And it's the same thing here. Okay, we're not talking about Jews now, but you know.
I mean, the thing is that there's also that other thing.
Again, if Israel was a genuinely good ally of the US, I wouldn't totally agree with that.
Oh, Duke, for fuck's sake!
But they're not. But I mean, all they do is drag America into wars, and as a Keynesian general, they drag us into wars too. So I'm not saying they're good allies, because they're not. But if they were, maybe. But you know, they're not. So
I mean, the trouble that you've got, Duke, is whether they're Portuguese or whatever. There's always that thing of dual loyalty, or where the loyalty lies, and dual nationality.
I can guess who we're talking about.
The Portuguese.
Yeah,
Portuguese. Unironically, it's the Portuguese. But no, look, yeah, Portugal's an ally. But currently they are in the European Union, okay, yeah. I mean, listen, the Portuguese the Portuguese people that I knew here, they were fine. I mean, one of them was a massive fanatic fan of Franco, and someone like that, you know, he was obsessed with Franco and everything. He could be based all that sort of stuff, but at the same time, when you have these very small local rural communities, I wasn't happy of someone of a foreign national descendant. And I will be honest, even if he was from Germany or Denmark, it was people from Germany or Denmark, I would also have the same view on this, because I said they can be involved in local community. That's not a problem, but they cannot be allowed to have positions, leadership positions. I think that's a fair thing to make.
William Grenville, what do you say then? Because I know what a lefty would say to you, right? And I'm no lefty, as I hope you know.
I'd just be called a racist, I imagine, or something like that. But
no, absolutely you wouldn't. I think you're doing your best to avoid that at the moment. But it won't make any difference, because what a lefty will say to you is, see, they're all immigrants. Anglo-Saxons are not really English, you know.
Well, it doesn't matter. They're part of our group, and we are all Anglo-Saxons. Our ancestors were Anglo-Saxons, and they killed and they. Well, they're not. No, but we are. It's our own group, isn't it? I don't care what if the Portuguese were, were created by a mix
All
of
right, all right.
Visigoth and Swabi.
Many of you guys are not going to agree with me on this, but I think the right needs to get that we need to get a lot more clear on this stuff than we are. at the
No,
moment.
this is fine. Those bloody hook-nosed Portuguese, they got to go.
Yeah, I know you're joking. I know.
I mean,
you're
no.
joking.
The thing is, I'm not even completely joking. Someone up in chat said, at least the Brits in Benidorm aren't seeking elected officers over there. I mean, like,
absolutely, and I don't disagree with that at
well,
all.
I mean,
I tell you
hang
what,
on.
I would totally support the Spanish if they said
No,
all the Brits in Benidorm
No.
need to be chucked out. I would.
No, I wouldn't. I would support the Brits taking over Benidorm.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're an imperialist. Well, then
I'm a pro Englishist. I'm a pro Anglo.
Well, then you're an imperialist, basically. And I'll agree with that.
I would go on
will
GB
agree
News.
with that. I just think we are wasting enormous amounts of time talking about, I don't know how many Portuguese have moved into Britain, but I don't think it's that many. We're wasting an enormous amount of time talking about shit like this when that's not the issue. The issue is 1.5 million people from Africa and Asia who are
the issue is
who are absolutely alien to us,
allowing foreign, essentially foreign client groups and foreign issues into their politics. That's kind of the heart of it.
And also, I mean, I think my point does also stand as you have foreign countries who enact influence over Britain and the Anglosphere in a very negative way, and that's why the reason why
so you go. First of all, let's talk about the Americans, because as we often do, because they've been doing that for a very long time. Okay, so they're not British, right? Obviously.
Well, according to Major General Richard Hilton, I mean, yes, they're Americans on paper, but all
right. All I'm trying to say to you guys, right, is that I don't have a very big issue with a small number, relatively, of Europeans or even Americans, and certainly not Australians, New Zealanders, Canadians, who are basically Anglo-Celts anyway, going into Britain. But I have an enormous issue with Africa, which is like this enormous place in terms of population and this completely shit place in terms of lifestyle and of Muslims coming into Britain. And also of Hindus as well.
I agree, but my point still stands. I don't mind them being here compared to what we have. I don't mind what they be here. But what I don't agree with is I don't think they should have local leadership positions. That is just that. I think
what's more important to you, William Granville? The fact that we have a woman from a certain tribe in Nigeria running the British Conservative Party, or that we have a few Portuguese in your part of the world.
This is William's point, though. If you once you open the door, we'll let some Europeans into government, then it opens the door to the rest.
I don't think
this is how they work.
Should be in government,
right?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
like a few Poles in your town, fine. A Polish community centre.
Yeah, exactly.
A collective of Polish councillors determining local holidays and stuff like that. I mean, not to cry the slippery slope, but it's real. And it is. And the reason why you have a black woman running the Conservative Party is because that same method, Iron Duke, has replicated itself over decades elsewhere around the country, and particularly London to a more extreme extent. And I agree. yeah, Portuguese, obviously other Europeans, it's not that bad. It's not that effective. But at the same time, the problem that you got here is, and if you go on any like news, any like panel show they do on politics or anything, it's the same thing. You have the older generation, which are who are depicted as being, white British. Younger generations are always multi-ethnic and ethnically foreign. The voices of young, true British people is constantly denied, undermined, and never
What's that
present.
got to do with the Portuguese?
Well, they fill up those spaces. They fill up those spaces.
Okay. Look, I don't know. Maybe I look at this differently to some of you guys. I just think Europeans are not Britain's problem. You could say Americans are, but only at like the macro world level. The Britain's problem is Africans and Muslims and Hindus. That's Britain's problem. And Sikhs. I constantly see British people saying Sikhs are great. Sorry,
No.
don't think they are. I don't
Right,
think they are.
but the issue is you kind of need to, if you're going to be a comprehensive political movement against this sort of thing, you need to understand how it is that those groups get in, influence politics, and how to keep them out. And if you're then turning around and going, oh, actually, we're going to let this group of Portuguese run politics in this area, you're kind of admitting that you don't really understand the issue.
And
I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just.
But
saying,
that was
we
the
agree.
argument, though.
We agree then. We agree. That's fine. We agree.
But how many Portuguese people are in Britain? Can someone look it up, please?
It doesn't matter for the sake of the argument.
I don't think it's going to be many. I really don't.
Duke, I will say, like, the doom is in Poland right away, where they're saying, oh, well, you've let in loads of Ukrainians, therefore you can't complain about loads of Muslims coming over. I mean, that's the argument they're doing to get Poland to have the third
Yeah,
world.
but you see, I'm a true racist, Mitch, and my thing is, like, all right, I don't want these Ukrainians. I've got to say, Ukrainians in particular, I would definitely keep out. But you know what? They're not black, so I don't care.
Right, but even, like, let's say if you had lots of Poles in the UK and they were infiltrating large parts of government, then
I'd be against them.
That's going to lend itself towards British politics being more intertwined with Slavic issues such as Ukraine.
Adam, you will have noticed, right, that when the recent Battle of Britain Day stuff was going on, I was one of the very few British channels who didn't do anything about the Polish squadrons. Because I don't give a shit about the Polish squadrons. They came over here because they'd already been beaten by the Germans. I didn't care about them.
No, that's fair enough.
Also, your point about, you're more concerned about, like, the Africans. Do you think, like, a bunch of Polish or Portuguese controlling a place, do you think they're going to care as much as you? Probably not, right?
But a lot more than the Africans will, or the West Indians, by the way.
No, they're not going. I'm saying they probably won't resist it as much as we would, because they're immigrants too, right?
So, I would really like Britain for the British, but you know what? A few, and I say a few in air quotes, Europeans can absolutely come into Britain.
No, we're not talking about them coming into Britain. We're talking about them going into elected office or other such positions.
Well, yeah, fine, but I don't know what elected offices these people are in. Is there a Portuguese MP?
No, we're not.
What? Hold on. Okay, so let's go back to the start.
Yeah.
You have, in my local area, in my local district council, Iron Duke, there were, you have 20 councillors, 10 of which were Portuguese, and they were from mix of Labour and Tory, mainly Tory, and I was just thinking, how many Portuguese? Oh, there's only about 100 in the whole county. That's kind of weird. Why do they overrepresent on the council? And that was my problem, because I thought, even this is back before I became more based than I was then. But back then I was thinking, hold on a sec, this is a bit odd. this is a bit strange. How were they able to get in such a position?
I do
Like,
get it. I do get
and
it.
I raised with my local party the conversation I had with the person who was getting funny with me. I just said, I just think that this, isn't very fair. I did the whole. It's not very equitable because there's a massive overrepresentation of them, and and as it happens, since they recently lost elections to Lib Dems and stuff, so it's actually gone back to white English people now, ironically. But during that time, you had a lot of Portuguese, English community and mixed culture stuff. And yes, it was not as bad as, like, say, a Pakistan or Bangladeshi
Let me ask
version.
you a question, William. Let me ask you a question,
Yeah.
William Grenville. Would you sooner have
Yeah.
non-racist Africans, Asians, Islamists, Hindus, or would you sooner have racist Portuguese? Just as
Why is this an either or?
Yeah, right. I'd say, sorry, I'd say our position, we shouldn't be giving ground on this stuff. Like, at least for us, we should be the ones pushing things as far as we can. Yeah, sure. Yeah, they'd be better, but if you're just going to surrender, keep going back, like, okay, well,
if you think I'm just going to surrender,
I didn't mean surrender. I meant I shouldn't.
You've never heard anything I ever
I should have said, if we
what?
concede on all these points, then you just keep falling back. So I think it's important just to keep pushing.
If there was a group of non-racist,
it's just entirely weird to me that here we are, right, at the end of 2025,
complaining about foreign influence.
And what we're arguing about is how many Portuguese are there in the Conservative Party. This is ridiculous to me. I'm sorry. This is ridiculous to me.
I mean, the Conservative Party as a political force is like non-existent anyway. So,
well, hopefully, yes, hopefully, I want it destroyed.
Yeah, they can have all the Portuguese they can get their hands on, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, at this point,
absolutely, yeah.
I mean, absolutely. At this point, I think that there's like a coalition of Portuguese and Indians running the show there, and that party, that branch. Anyway,
are you talking about Goans there, William Granville? That'd be Portuguese and Indians. Would be Goans.
There are Goans about, but I think Indians in the sense of like Hindu Indians, not Catholic Portuguese Indians.
Yeah. But do you care if someone is Catholic or Christian or not? Because I don't. I don't care.
I don't care.
If they're Christian or not.
No.
Don't want any of them.
Well, no, exactly. If you're a Catholic from bloody India or the Philippines or something, good for you. But you can be a Catholic there. I'm not a Christian nationalist. I've never. I mean, it's like the Armenians and stuff. It's like, oh, cool. They can be Armenians in there. But we cannot fund.
Look at who actually is in power in the British government. For example, you'll find they are Muslims or they are West Indian morons like David Lammy, who wants something like, what is it, $16 trillion from Britain to apparently pay for West Indian nations that wouldn't exist if Britain didn't create them. But, whatever. This is my problem. The Portuguese are not a fucking problem, guys. They're not.
But they could be.
I mean, I don't
actually think they could be either.
It's not about the Portuguese, though, is it? It's about the principle. It's the sort of system that sits behind them.
See, this is why we lose, guys. This is why we lose. Because a sensible person watching this will turn around and say, look, Portugal is a much smaller country even than Britain. And Britain, they can't take over Britain. Why are they going on about?
I think letting foreign influence into our politics is why we lost. Actually,
I'm quite happy. I'm happy to ally with Portugal and help them over there. We should be running our things. They can run their things, and we can work together.
That would be the perfect world. Absolutely, Tharian. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm just against foreign influence in Britain, full stop. And
Okay, I'm more racist than that.
well,
What?
William, I'm more racist than that,
What?
Granville. I'm against brown and black foreign influence.
Well, I mean, the Portuguese aren't. And
Well,
it doesn't
yeah.
matter.
Exactly.
I mean, they're
Guys,
the duskiest of
guys,
men.
be
but-
serious. Be serious.
I mean, I will say the Portuguese that I'm referring to, they are pretty dark skinned. I mean, they're if we're actually honest, the Arabs, they were a long time in that region of the world. They were there for a long
all right,
time.
William Granville, what would you do with someone like Bonnie Blue, who is a blonde-haired, white British woman? Who,
Send her to a monastery.
frankly, I'd send her
Yeah.
overseas. I'd send her to India and make her live there. That's what I'd do.
I mean, I would listen. A penal colony on the Ascension Islands. There you go. Job
That's
done.
quite.
No,
that's quite the
I
term,
wouldn't send her there. That would be far too nice. No,
Oh,
I'd send her to Nigeria or somewhere
oh,
and make her
no.
live there. I'd say, that's you gone. Go. See, I'm more racist than you guys, really.
No, it's not nothing to do with racism. I'm not rewarding like Africans with free white women. Like that's not
Oh,
happening.
come on.
No.
Bonnie Blue is not a white woman. Let's
I
give
mean,
me a break.
to them, she is. I mean, they're porn
Yeah,
brains.
but, I mean, she's just a whore, so who cares?
Are you suggesting she's had so much coal in her that she's no longer white, aren't you?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. Excuse me, guys, I've got to go to the loo. But yeah, I actually think I'm more racist than you dudes are.
No.
you know.
No, our bar is much higher.
I mean, my racism transcends like biological. I mean, it includes all sorts of people for various different reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked with a Portuguese guy. The last Portuguese guy I worked with, he was just black, literally from like Guinea-Bissau or somewhere. Portugal is quite a gateway to Europe for Africa. Sadly,
Yeah.
As is I mean, all the Mediterranean is really, isn't it?
yeah.
France is, yeah.
Italy does still, thankfully, practice like, well, I mean, so do we to an extent, like birthright or heritage-based citizenship. So, like, their football team is a lot whiter than the general demographics of Italy.
Yeah.
Well, whiter in the context of Italians.
Is France? They don't have birthright citizenship, do they? Do they?
They have, I think, they have a half and half system. A little looser than ours, but not tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, the French
revolution, isn't it?
The French have, since the revolution, they have all this silly notions of, to be French, it's just a citizenship thing, and it's like nothing existed before the revolution. France didn't exist before the revolution. No. It was just a thing we won't talk about.
But their football team is fully African, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like our football team. Near enough.
Well, ours is a bit mixed, but the diversity always gets pushed to the front.
We don't have a football team, guys. We don't have a cricket team. We don't have a rugby team. They're all mixed.
The only time they aren't mixed was the female football team, if you notice that. That was,
who cares about
which
that?
one?
I mean,
it was so
I'm
funny.
sorry.
It was funny though, seeing them go. The one problem with the English
Did you
women's
watch
team.
it?
No, of course not. But the narrative around it was that, well, they won, but they won without any diversity, which is a problem.
I don't care about female.
Just going about our
football,
English club as well.
Cricket.
Yeah.
I don't care about any female sport. It's always an inferior version of sport. Apparently, I'm doing straw man arguments according to some people.
You were.
All right, I don't think I am. I think you guys are being totally unrealistic. And when we're fighting 3/4 of the world, you want to make that 20% of the world, which is not totally our enemies, also our enemy. Sorry,
It's not about making them our enemies. It's just saying, we have this simple proposition and we're sticking to it. No
Adam,
grey around the edges, no blurring.
Adam, I'm a soldier, all right, and my deal is, if you're going to fight a battle, win it. Don't
Even
adopt positions
if you
that
want to
don't
talk
let
about,
you
like,
win.
let's say, like, do we have the numbers or do we have the talent? I would always say yes anyway. Like,
Yeah,
especially now.
me too.
Well,
Absolutely.
there you go.
I totally agree with that. But you know what? For the great normie public, right? And this is not the people watching our stream. This is the great normie idiot British public who are fed mainstream media lies all the time. I don't think this helps them much, to be honest.
Well, look at it this way: like you're talking about fighting a war. You should have. So we've got the English regiment.
We
And then we
are
have the
fighting a
separate-
war, by the way.
Right, yeah.
We
And
are
so
fighting a war.
we have, right, we've got the English regiment. Which is just English people running it. Then you've got the Portuguese regiment, and they can do their thing. And we work together for the same cause, but we're not mixing. You're not putting like tank crews in the infantry and vice versa.
For sure. And that I would totally support.
But we have that. It's called
Yeah.
Portugal and
Yeah.
England, and they're like separate countries.
Yeah, but you know what? If I'm going to complain about who is destroying England, the first people I think about are not going to be the Portuguese. I'm sorry.
He was just using a local example though about a wider national problem.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Look, I do. You know, to me, the wider national problem is in Britain. You've got to say mass Muslim immigration, number one, mass African immigration, number two, and behind that, you would say Hindus and Sikhs and everybody else.
Yeah, fucking Gurkhas too. They can go on the list.
You know damn well I would never agree with that, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, the Gurkhas are a tough one, aren't they? Like, you go to Cheriton, and they basically are like any other group. They've just taken over. But like, there is also, you know, like a historical tie, and there was like a royal. You know, it gets complicated.
They're good guys and loyal to Britain. But yeah,
I mean, the trouble is, we've allowed Nepal in recent decades to fall over into pretty rough times. I will say, Evela's sunglasses. Yeah, when there's like a Portuguese grooming gang, I want everyone to remember this street.
yeah. If you find a Portuguese grooming gang, I'll kind of agree with you, William Grenville. But I haven't seen one so far.
Until that day happens, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen one so far because they are Europeans. But you know,
Yeah.
And listen, people may think I'm attacking my fellow guests here. I'm not. My fellow guests know me pretty damn well, and my opinion never changes on most of these things. I am totally pro-English and pro-British, but after that, I'm a little bit pro-European. All right, and even our original American cousins, I'm a little bit pro them, but everybody else, I don't give a shit about, really.
Yeah, I mean,
But
I
think
want
that would be the logical British position, really.
I want Portugal to be 100% Portuguese. I want Spain to be 100% Spanish. I want France to be 100% French, Germany, and versa, and Britain and Ireland and everywhere else. I want them to be, you know, absolutely governed for their own people, and same with America as well, and same with most of the countries. And I don't want foreign influence. I want these countries to be genuine. I mean, we talk about sovereignty,
Sure,
and you know,
sure.
and everything else. I want genuine sovereignty, not to be beholden to this nation or that nation or this group or that group because they have positions of power in these countries.
But you're always going to be, because every smaller nation is going to be beholden to a bigger nation. This is the
But I mean, Britain, as you said, Britain isn't a smaller nation. I mean, we're not a smaller nation in that regard. We're not like a.
Well, we are now because.
Well, we are now.
We are because our industry has been destroyed, and our armed forces have been largely destroyed. If you
But
want
this-
Britain to stand on its own 2 feet in the world, we need to spend far more money on our industry and on our armed forces. If we don't, we never will. We'll still be a little vassal state of the US, and whoever is the US president.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with all that about Europe.
Yeah.
I do also want man to cross the heliosphere, so naturally, I also want all of Africa and India to be 100% Anglo at some point in the future too.
Yeah, I do. Look, that would have been nice, but you know how many Africans you'd have had to have killed.
Well, how many are going to have to
Well.
get rid of? I mean, it's a lot. I know it's a big job, but
Yeah. The Americans struggled for years with the Indians, and there were not that many of them, really. But
The future for Britain is Mars. We're going to make Mars a white planet.
yeah, all right. Then.
Yeah.
I do. Listen, do you know what? One of the few ambitions I have left of my advanced age is I'd like to see man arrive on Mars and come back. That would be cool. I'd like to see that, actually. I'd actually think that would be the first real, absolutely total technological change since, I don't know, the late 1960s.
Well,
Because there hasn't been one. There hasn't been one since then, basically.
Well, Musk has to stop hiring Indians for that to
Yeah.
happen, for a start.
If we get the first footage, the first man on Mars is an African, do we all think it's fake?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah.
100.
I
The first man on Mars, like if humans haven't totally lost their brains, and we could argue they maybe have, but the first man on Mars will be like one of the best US Navy or US Air Force
Yeah,
pilots.
but
I mean,
there's a lot of people in NASA who will be thinking, no, it's got to be a black man or a black
Yeah.
woman, even better. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
let's
no,
then they'll all die. Then they'll all die. Almost certainly.
they would die on the way there. Let's be honest. I mean,
They'll just die because they won't be able to problem solve
or
quickly.
crash land on the planet or something.
He'll
And-
get
and
bitter
they'll
about the
die,
space
and
food
the
not being
Martian
seasoned enough,
thing-
and he'll just like unplug
Yeah.
the oxygen.
Yeah, but everyone will die if they try and do that. But
Look, I mean, we'll
know
consider
what?
it mission accomplished when Planum, Australia has been terraformed enough that it looks like Dorset.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I was just thinking, you know how like when they were first testing the rockets and stuff, they were sending like dogs and monkeys up in them.
Yeah,
Never
I
mind.
fucking hated that. I fucking hated
Yeah,
that.
we'll do it with.
We'll do it.
The Soviets send the dog into space and let him die in space. Fuck you.
All the towns and cities of Africa aren't worth the bones of a single terrier.
Well, that's true,
Yeah.
Adam. Absolutely, that's true.
Yeah.
You guys misunderstand me sometimes. You really do. I mean,
No, we're not. We're just
yeah,
making
I mean,
good memes.
The bones and cities of Africa are not worth the bones of one British terrier. Not at all.
No. The thing, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? If you know, all of these Western regimes were as evil and as built on diversity as they were, you think we would have been sending you know, the blacks up there, but
Yeah.
no, we never
We go,
did.
I mean,
NASA goes from the monkey tests to the black people tests in the rockets. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
without,
and they're all
without,
screaming as they take off. That was
without sounding like a bit like a bug man about it, you know, with Rwanda, half the population like was wiped out in like effectively in like the massacres and all that, and yet the population managed to bounce back within a generation. So
yeah.
you know, if there was like, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Let's basically just say it like that. It wouldn't be like the end of, you know, for those sorts of people.
Have you,
population bounce back.
William Granville? Have you ever seen a village of dead people.
Dead people.
Yeah, like murdered people. Have you ever seen one?
Not on
have
my
not,
morning
no.
walk, no.
Because
No.
I have, all right, and you don't want to see that, right?
No.
I mean,
Like I
end.
mean, even African people, like grandmothers and grandfathers, fathers and mothers, children, little babies. You don't want to see that, mate. Don't even.
Well, no one
think
wants to see this
you
stuff,
do.
but you know,
I
sectarians
have.
coming for us all. You know, it
Yeah.
seems we are
Listen,
Rhodesia ourselves at this point.
if we don't stop this, Armin, we will face that.
Some
eventually.
people do want to see it.
Yeah.
More people than are brainy, I have to say. But
I think before this is over, I think we'll all see it, whether we wanted to or not. But you know,
I have seen a partially decapitated person went through the windscreen of a car.
ooh.
Mm.
I actually I worked at a place years ago, and there was a guy driving a truck who worked for us, and he hit a deer, and it came through the windscreen and it hit the bulkhead. And where he was on the brakes, it went back out, and there was some calls made, and a truck came out from the depot, and they started transferring it over because the truck was ruined, and the police were there, and the police stopped them, and they said, no, you can't unload the truck. It's a crime scene, because the deer you hit was actually a person, and they'd been robbing a house, and they'd been disturbed, and they ran out because it was early in the morning. They ran across the road in front of the truck, and the body was, I mean, I never saw it, but the body was so messed up, he just assumed it was a deer when he saw it.
Oh, that's karma right there.
Yeah.
Well, when I lived in South Africa, one day, a Hindu man and his wife were driving down in Party Hill, which is a big hill in northern Natal, and he was speeding because he was an Indian dude, and in the road was a cow, and he hit the cow, and the cow went into his windscreen, and it took the cops quite a long time to work out what was the Hindu guy, the cow, and his wife, because they were so intermingled. But yeah, I mean, shit happens, eh?
Seems even Vishnu's got a sense of irony, I suppose.
There you go. There you go. I'm no friend of India.
Said, Woodpit in chat said, my sister hit a deer once. It's not pleasant. Yeah, they're big old lumps.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually I was riding last week when I came on the stream. Actually, I rode home from work on my bicycle up through the woods, and there was massive herd of deer just like streamed across the road right in front of me.
Cool.
I think moose are one of the highest, like responsible for one of the highest amounts of death of any animals in the US, because they're so huge. Yeah. They win, not the car. Yeah.
No one wins in a car hitting a moose or a deer. Don't do it. Or a cow. It's really a bad idea, guys.
Even a badger's a big old lump. You have a lot of stuff out there in Australia, though, don't you? Which are like, they always say, if on motorbikes, they always say, "Oh, don't go riding at night," like out in in rural Australia.
Well, you got
it's a good plan. Someone's saying
hit a kangaroo.
Big. Moose are the Australian version of elk, Alabaster. They're the same animal, pretty much. But yeah, this is quite interesting because we've completely gone off topic. But it's like, I don't know. Of all the people I would slag off who were invading Britain, the Portuguese would not be anywhere near my top. Good. But whatever. I'm happy for you guys to say what you want. Mitch, I know you wanted to talk about something else. Would you? Before we do that, by the way, guys, you can support the channel. Hit that thumbs up button. It really helps. And you can also ask us, you can support the channel financially. And also, if you want to, ask us super chat questions, and I will make sure we answer them towards the end of the stream. And I did notice, by the way, we already have one from regular supporter Gary. So thank
I'm
you,
gonna
Gary.
I'm gonna head off now, Duke. Thanks for having me on. Need to.
Oh, okay. So having caused all this shit about the Portuguese, you're now going to
Yeah.
run away.
Yeah,
Okay,
basically,
mate. Okay.
basically, yeah.
He-
Come in, talk some shit about
This
Portuguese
is
people.
not English behaviour.
no,
William
it is.
Grenville.
He's off. He's off to do something about it now.
Yeah, he's going to go stick a sign up in his window that says "No dogs, no Portuguese, no blacks."
Anyone who sticks a sign up in their window saying no dogs is no friend of mine. But anyway, whatever. Thank you for joining us, William, and go well.
Thank you, Duke. Thank you, everyone.
night.
See you later.
Bye bye.
All right, Mitch. Sorry, we totally derailed your talking about stuff. So carry on, mate. And I have put up whatever it is you wanted me to put up.
Yeah, so this is another thing. Alongside that article about Starmer just being a dead lame duck, pretty much, and him being like the last of a Blair White era. You then got the State Department of America just saying stuff like this. Like they're now if you compare it to, like, for example, Soviet Union in the late 80s, who were saying to their Eastern Bloc puppets, saying, well, look, if your own people kick off against you, we won't go against them anymore. Like, you have to take care of yourselves. I mean, this is a replicable circumstance where the Americans are just telling the likes of the British government, sorry, like, we're not backing all the mass migration and all this, like, deracination that's been going on the last 30 years or 80 years, if you want to go back that far. And and you've got, for example, the State Department saying they're going to have their ambassadors, like their guys in, for example, Britain, to brief the federal government about all the anti-free speech laws and all the harm of mass migration. So every time you're going to get a Lucy Connolly or you're going to get another Saveport stabbing or whatever, it's just going to become mainstream knowledge in the American establishment among Trump and his inner circle. And here it just, detailing certain examples, and then you got it saying they're going to scrutinize his policies, and they're just giving it a warning notice straight up.
Yeah, this was an interesting change of things, considering it's America who have pushed all of this whole time. How real do we think it is, though? Like, are they actually going to do anything, or is it all just sort of bluster?
I'm just gonna see in the same way that it's like going when Gorbachev told the likes of East Germany and Romania and all that back in the 80s. Look, we're not going to save your arse this time if you people kick off, like what happened in Hungary or Czechoslovakia. So I do think it's basically giving like a permission slip to the likes of Farage to just go, I don't know, to just go full steam ahead. In some ways, like, it's given a permission slip. And it's like but to be fair, there's also a matter of how much of it, though, is just going to be part of like reform and AfD in Germany and so on. Now just going, okay, they're going to puppet themselves even further to America after all this.
Well, yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean, though? You say it writes a permission slip essentially to Farage. I mean, who have they done this sort of thing for before? Have they ever done it for anyone?
Well, they've always been just pushing, immigration on us.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like last week. Like America's bit. I don't know what to make of them on this, because last week, you had them celebrating how the Trump administration had naturalized more, new citizens than any other administration.
Clarion,
yeah.
answer me this, all right? Is it as simple, and I know this seems really dumb, but is it as simple that the Trump regime have suddenly realized that if Britain becomes majority Muslim or whatever, it won't be an American ally anymore? Could it be as simple as that?
I don't think they see things this way. I mean, look, don't talk to Americans about demographics, right? When they're so much worse. They don't see they're full Sibnats. Even like they're
hang on. Some Americans, let's be fair.
Oh,
This is not Aaron McIntyre. This is not a Dave Green.
Sure, but on average, Americans are more like to the left of British people on this stuff.
I mean, their most popular right-wing commentator is a mad black woman, right? And she's the most popular right-wing figure at the moment in America.
Are you talking about what's her name? That
Candace Owens?
Yeah. I mean, like, she's a mad black woman married to a white guy. No one takes her seriously.
She's she's so huge. She gets so many viewers these days.
Yeah, but only with idiot MAGA supporters.
I mean, but that's the point, isn't it? Like, right, their right wing sort of has all these figures in it. So, yeah, but it's like, I don't know. With America, it's always just a question of, what does this actually mean? Are you actually going to do anything? If the immigration keeps continuing into Europe, what are they going to do? Yeah, I can't see them really doing anything, because, well, just be called racist, and especially the Democrats take over in 2 years or whatever. Then nothing's happening then.
Well, yeah, like that's the other thing. Like, do we even know if Trump's got like a successor? Is there any chance that this is going to continue, or are they just going to go full bore and undo it all? Roll around the next general election, the next presidential election.
Isn't Trump's successor? What's his name?
J.D. Vance.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
I know he's got an Indian wife.
I think he's the most popular at the moment, but I don't know if he could win, especially if the Democrats pull out someone who isn't as fucking awful as Kamala Harris.
Who the fuck could the Democrats pull out who isn't fucking awful? For God's sake, man.
Yeah, it's like you've got Zohan Mamdani, who this week he went to the Oval Office, and Trump just patted him on the back, going, "Okay, it's all right. You can call me a fascist if you want in front of all these people."
Yeah,
and Mamdani just looked awkward, and it's just and of course you have a predictable result of all these left wingers just going, "Oh, Mamdani must be a shill, then he must be completely fake opposition because he was not willing to call Trump a fascist at this particular moment," and all that. You got Gavin Newsom in California. But, I mean, what has he got going for him other than the fact that he's got a relatively normal-looking family life? What has he got going for him?
They really loved his social media output. They're like, oh, he's going to he brings the meme power that, Trump had. But it doesn't hold up to much scrutiny. That seems to have already folded in on itself. All the energy from that seems to have,
J.D. Vance is not a Trump.
No,
definitely not. I mean, it's also you think of Obama. He was a complete nobody that no one had heard of him, and then he goes and has
Kenya, by the way.
Yeah, but then he goes and has a meeting with the Bilderberg Group, and then I think a couple of months later he announces his run for president and wins. So they can take nobodies that can just pop out of nowhere when they've got the right backing of the right people. Yeah. So we might, like, you know, whoever they pull out might not, we probably don't know yet. If they were smart, that's what they do. We'll see.
Interesting. Yeah, all interesting. Adamant, did you have a first subject you wanted to bring up, mate?
No, actually. I did think about talking about these nuclear reactors, but I haven't really had enough chance to sit down and look into them. I mean, I kind of think it's probably the best thing Labour's done since they came to power. I'm not exactly going to sit here and make a base
I don't think they'll even start any of them.
Well, yeah, probably not. I mean, I did kind of sit there and think, like, I think if the American government had actually pushed back on them, I think they would have folded a bit too easily.
Yeah, the British government won't start any of them because the Labour are basically green net zero and making Britain a medieval place in terms of energy, but with enormous costs. They're never going to build any of those reactors. It's just
no. I mean, they're saying they are. They've got the plans, but like you're right. It does seem to like again, it's one of these things where it's like, are they going to put energy into something that could be popular with the general public, but won't get any of that public to come out and vote for them next time? Or are they going to just keep throwing red meat to their base? I mean, if you went by what they were saying at the Labour Party conference, like just a month ago, you would think that they're just fully on board with the idea of just feeding their own base. And their own base is broadly anti-nuclear, anti-cheap energy.
yeah, they want everyone in Britain to be a peasant, basically.
Yeah.
Which is what net zero is designed to make you, is a peasant.
I mean, they do generally believe.
And then a 15-minute city will make you absolutely a worse peasant than in 1200.
I mean, personally, I actually think the peasantry system of the 1200s was kind of cool. But of course, the thing is, what they want is they want to punish the British public for the hubris of at one point being great in the past. And the 15-minute cities is because they've flooded the place with diversity, and they want you to live with the repercussions of those policies. The reason they hate suburbs, both in America and here, is because they hated the fact that they tried to force this on people and people just moved away.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Adam, and I've got to say, when you talk about the 1200 pheasants, my big thing for Britain was that you could be an English archer in the 100 Years' War, and if you were both brave and skilled and lucky, you could become a knight. And I think that's why the British Empire was the biggest empire the world has ever seen, because the British system was the one system where if you were absolutely good and lucky, you could win.
Well, I mean, we had this like last week as well. We had this whole thing with Rupert Lowe, like sort of injecting the death penalty discourse back into the political sphere. That's another problem, actually. Similar. I mean, we're just talking about whether Trump has a real successor. I mean, that's another thing. What's Rupert Lowe doing to guarantee he stays in power past the next election, being that he's an independent, which is kind of a precarious position, but you know, that's by the by. And it's like, and one of the arguments when I've brought up the death penalty to people, some of the things that like normies bring up is they go, oh, they try to outflank you from the right, essentially, on the death penalty, and they'll say, oh yeah, but killing them is too quick. They need to suffer, and you kind of say to them like, Axel Ruder Cabana is sitting in his cell playing his PlayStation and getting 3 meals a day. It's not suffering, right? Yeah. He doesn't. A lot of these sort of like very, very low violent criminals don't have sort of enough of a sort of consciousness to really understand what freedom really means. So it's not really suffering for them. And of course, to go back to like peasantry, part of the reason that system could work is because for people that were kind of low born, it gave them a system within which they lived a perfectly fine life and existence, whilst also allowing those that sort of had the propensity or the ability to yearn for more, and to reach a bit higher. That was kind of the reason that system worked so well for so long. But
Yeah, and particularly in Britain, Adam, because in Britain, as I said, you could become a longbow archer, and you have to understand that longbow archers were not merely missile troops. They used to fight hand to hand. They were expected to. A British and English longbow archer would need a buckler, which was a small shield, as well as a sword, as well as a helmet, even to be accepted for Henry V's army.
Yeah.
And those guys used to fight hand to hand, and you could make a fortune if you captured a French duke, for example. You could suddenly become a rich man, And beside the looting and all the other stuff that people did in every war that's ever been fought. But yeah, it's like I think the English and British system was the best one there's ever been, because if you were lucky and you were skilled and you worked hard and brave, you could advance, which in France you couldn't. Like in France, you literally could not become a noble unless you were a noble.
And it went on for a long time as well in Britain as too. Like we even mentioned this when we were talking about our last the history stream us two did, not last week, but the week before, the Franklin expedition. Where these people went out and they were essentially like looking for a bit of personal and familial glory, and hence why you had so many sort of pubs and shops and that named after famous captains or generals or ships, because those were the places where the people that owned those establishments went and made their fortune and came back and started a small business off the back of it.
Yep, absolutely right. You have so many Admiral Nelson pubs because so many like chief petty officers in the Royal Navy came home with enough prize money to open a pub, and they called it the Admiral Nelson. That's why you have so many. I'm sorry, Farry. I'm carrying on.
Is that Shackleton advert, the Men Wanted one, where he's going, very dangerous journey, high chance of death, but honor and recognition in case of success? Is that real?
British. That's so British. It is. It is real. Entirely real, but it's so British. It's
supposedly had like a few hundred people apply to that advert as well off the back of that.
Yeah, got hit. Men wanted for hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. It's so good. Yeah.
How many British guys would apply for that even today? I think if someone put that advert out today, you'd still get a lot of British guys who would say, "Yeah, that sounds like a good deal to me."
Yeah,
I really do. It's a British thing. Brits have always been like, let's go do an adventure.
We like Vikings, really. That's sort of we carried on that sea raiding spirit of just going out, conquering whatever we find. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I just think that would still be popular today. Brits don't think, we're all like totally different classes. Everyone goes on about the British class system, but you know what? The real truth is that all Brits thought they were better than all other people. They always did.
Yeah, every society has class. It's just that ours kind of was self-aware enough that we sort of had a pretty firm understanding about how that sort of thing worked and could be mapped out. Whereas in places like America, for example, I mean, this is kind of modern even over there, where they, and we get it here too, where they try to, it's sort of a leftist thing where they try to say, oh, it's about how much you earn, and it's like, well, not really. I mean, there's probably quite a lot of middle class people that out earned the upper classes like hundreds of years ago, but they weren't upper class.
Yeah, there, you know this, because I know you know your history. There were skilled working class guys who out earned the middle class.
Yeah,
like if you were a really skilled working class engineer guy, you probably earned more money than many guys who would claim to be middle class back in the day. It was about skill levels, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think someone could put out that Shackleton message today, and they'd still get loads of British guys who would say, "Yeah, I'll give that a go," because British guys, we're not cowardly. We never have been, and the chance of honour is always good. And I don't think there's much difference between Shackleton himself and one of his working class guys who went as the cook. I don't. I just think they're the same sort of guy. Yeah, it's an adventure. Let's go do it.
I mean, I'd all like our, obviously not everyone, but our sort of upper class generally weren't so spiteful and didn't hate the sort of lower classes as much as you see in like France and stuff.
Not in those days, Tharium. I mean, I've done posts about this recently, and anyone who looks at World War One, for example, will find enormous numbers of English aristocrats who got murdered by the German artillery or machine guns while out front saying, "Follow me, chaps."
Yeah.
Because that's just what they were expected to do, and they did it because they were not cowards.
And also, like, you know, we mentioned the 100 Years' War. Like, we were mixing like our troops up. You know, we had the knights with the archers, with like sort of common archers and stuff. They're all fighting together in units, rather than
don't forget the men at arms, Farium. Very
That's
important.
what I mean, yeah, but you know, they're
always remember the men at arms.
Yeah.
In between knights and archers, you had men at arms who were armored guys who would fight on foot, but they weren't knights, but they were quite well armored and they fought on foot. And this was also a major part of any English army in the 100 Years' War.
Yeah, but it's just they were all still fighting together, rather than
they were united.
Yeah,
the English army.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree with that. I don't know, guys. I think we got a little bit this evening. How we got diverted about Portuguese people, and I'm sorry, but Portuguese people are not the biggest problem in.
No, they're not. But he was making a point about the political the political institutions not being able to like keep out foreign influence.
Yeah.
Well, okay, and if that was about Portugal, I'd accept it. But it's not. Britain is being destroyed by Muslims, by Africans,
but they gain the system
Hindus.
the same way. That's the thing. It's just in his area, it's done by the Portuguese, but it's the same process as what you'd see if you went to like Bradford and saw the Pakistanis doing it, or if you went to London and saw Sadiq Khan doing it.
Do you think there are Portuguese grooming acts? Because I don't think there are.
That's not the point.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not the
right.
point.
Okay, and
we should govern.
the same process that sees Portuguese
Yeah.
councillors in offices
Mhm.
where new stream attendee William Grenville lives is the same process that allows for Pakistani councillors that allow for grooming gangs to operate in other areas. It's not to say that the Portuguese councillors are going to lead to grooming gangs. It's just it's the same issue that none of those parties have any ability to weed out, or anything like the Tories in that area to keep out any form of foreign influence.
All right, I see what you're saying. I don't totally agree with you, but I do see what you're saying. All right, I just say talk about the guys who really do it, and no.
Although just on the class thing, hang on, I'll step up to my computer. Dominius Diabolis 1132 said the intelligentsia certainly have a seething contempt for the working class these days. I mean, that's the funny
Sure.
thing is people generally often complain about like the middle classes. I'm not even really sure that the people we look to as the middle classes and their sort of seething hatred, that they're even actually genuinely part of the middle class. I think that they're sort of spiteful mutants and that we had a sort of rotation of the middle class that happened around like the 60s and 70s, or really just generally in the
Sure,
post-war
sure.
period.
Sure,
I don't think they're exactly the same people. And yeah, I think the people we're looking at are basically just a new class. They definitely don't seem to hold themselves or have the competence of the middle classes. They generally just seem to be spiteful mutants.
I
always
do
consider the-
agree with you on that.
I'd always-
Farringham, sorry.
I was going to say,
Farringham.
yeah, the middle class always think you're more likely to find people who start their own businesses and stuff. None of this like lot do that. You know, they just want to work for a big corporation. Which is
or a council,
very,
or
it's a different mindset. Yeah.
Mm.
See, that's weird because when I moved to South Africa, I actually set up my own company to move there. But all right, but I was a working class guy.
No,
for the
I'm
British
just.
Army.
I know. I'm not saying it's absolute. Just in general, those sort of.
No, I'm agreeing with you, Farringham.
Yeah.
I think you're right. Like these guys have no ambition
No.
at all, other than
it's just
destruction
get a
of
job.
the-
Yeah.
I mean,
Do-
in Marxian analysis, there is of course a separate category even for those, isn't there? Which is the petty bourgeoisie, which are people that don't fit in with the bourgeoisie. They don't have quite the same sensibilities, but they are business owners.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think most Marxian class analysis is quite lacking. I do think that bit's kind of accurate though.
But do also ignore the what did they call them?
The kulaks.
Ignore the kulak thing, because kulaks were just the best off peasants in any village, basically. That's all they were.
I saw, AA's been going on his Stalin did nothing wrong arc. I did watch a bit of one of his recent videos where he's interviewing some I think he's the head of like the American Communist group or something.
Right.
And he's going, well, yeah, the kulaks, they kind of had it coming because they were sabotaging the efforts of the nation. Come on.
Yeah, it's silly as well. If you read about like Stolypin had a whole set of like reforms that would have because of course there's like two arguments for the kulaks. Like it's like, were they rich because they had better farmland, or were they rich because of the system that they ran the farmland under, which is that most Russian peasants used to farm the land communally, but kulaks had more of a private ownership model. So the libertarians like to go on that one. But of course, it was a bit of both. I mean, there was more kulaks in places with really good soil, like in Ukraine and such, because that better quality farmland is going to mean that you are going to try to take ownership of it over the the years. But of course, it's like Stolypin was essentially just trying to create that same sort of land ownership system across all of Russia, and it probably would have worked if he'd been given enough time before they shot him. And it's like the idea that actually no, you just they had to these farmers that really weren't doing anything to anyone, weren't really even particularly that well organized, were just through just through purely existing were sort of getting in the way of the
Yeah.
Soviet machine. It's utter garbage. I mean, no one ever talks about de-Cossackization as well, which was basically the same thing done to
Yep.
another group that
100
itself, yeah, that was literally on the side of the revolution, but because it's sort of an independent client group, a rival castle, as AA would say, had to be smashed. So immediately they start dreaming up all these reasons why they have to go and why they're actually sabotaging the revolution.
Yeah, you all die or get sent to Siberia, and look, even with the kulak thing, like even Russian peasants who owned like 1 acre eventually got called kulaks.
Yeah.
They got
Yeah.
called kulaks because they owned an acre of land, which could maybe keep a family of 3 people alive for a year. Stalin, I reckon Stalin was even more evil than Hitler, to be honest, because certainly he killed more of his own people than Hitler did.
Yeah.
I mean, Hitler made many mistakes and was not a nice man, but
Yeah, but
Stalin was worse, in my opinion.
But Stalin did increase steel production, so you know.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, as if all that industrialization, like all that hadn't been laid down by the Tsar, like
Yeah,
prior. And he
yeah.
wasn't even a particularly good Tsar, but he still, he was smart enough to listen to smart people that he found, and was like laying the groundwork for all this stuff. Even to, the Germans recognized this prior to World War One, that Russia was going to be like this rising power that they kind of didn't like the look of. But no, that's all down to Stalin 20 years later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't trust any of these people. I mean, look at Roshchesky, the Russian marshal in World War II. He originally started as a Tsarist officer before the Tsar was murdered, along with his wife and children, and absolutely brutally, by the way.
And their dogs.
And yeah, everyone. But yeah, Roshchesky like always carried a pistol for the rest of his life, and he had no teeth because the NKVD, which was the KGB of those days, had knocked all his teeth out while like interrogating him, and he always carried a pistol for the rest of his life. And he told his daughter, he said, "The reason I carry one, if they come for me again, I'm just going to kill myself."
Yeah.
You know, and this was one of the main guys who beat the Germans in World War II. Stalin, I think, was even more evil than Adolf Hitler, to be honest. But no communist will ever agree with that because they're all dishonest, lying shitbags, basically. Yeah. Anyway, guys, thank you so much to Mitch, Adamant, and Tharium. Adamant, anything you want to plug, mate?
Are we going to go through? You said we had an entropy.
Yeah, we do. We're always on entropy, right?
Yeah. We had. You said we got an entropy from someone. What was it?
Oh yeah, no, I've got one, but I'll do that after we.
Oh, okay. This. Yeah. No, sorry, nothing to plug.
I beg your pardon. Tharium, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, our buddy Mercian, he's started making a few videos on his channel.
I did invite him this evening, but he said he's
busy. Yeah. So his channel is Mercian 5632. Go subscribe to him if you want. Yeah, but now he's doing a bit more with it. So yeah.
Yeah, I like Mercian. He's a good guy. All right. What Adam was talking about, Garen, who is a long-time friend of the channel, gives us $5 and just says hello.
Oh, hello, Garen.
Yeah, and thank you, guy. Garen backs this channel a lot, so thank you, mate. So there's that. Yeah. Okay. On Wednesday, we are going to be talking about the British Socialist Fabian Society. And the British Socialist Fabian Society literally has a wolf in sheep's clothing as its image. And yeah, we're going to be talking about that with Aaron Hook, and Aaron has wanted to do this for a while, so I think that will be interesting. So come and look at that, guys. I'm sorry, we got a bit probably my fault. We got didn't quite do our normal style of stream, but I just didn't get why AI decided to go on about the Portuguese. I'm sorry. I listen. I'm as pro-British as anyone you'll ever meet. Guarantee it to you. Portugal is not the country I'm mainly worrying about, but I get why other people say, no, okay, fair enough. But anyway, I think that was kind of, we went off track at that point, but whatever. Listen, I don't think anyone should run England, or Britain, but I don't know. I think we've got to start getting realistic. You know, it's not Portugal, it ain't Spain, it ain't France, it's not even America to some degree. It's Africa, it's Muslim countries, and it's Hindus. It's not Japan. You know, Japan is not mass invading Britain. Let's get real. That's what I would say, boys. But that's just me. Thank you very, very much to my guests, Alaman and Mitch and Tharium. And we'll see you on Wednesday for our stream about the British Fabian Society, i.e. the wolf in sheep's clothing. In the meantime, don't let the bastards grind you down. Go on.
Yeah, down with the Portuguese. The night of the Espada.